Hello and welcome to the NF Show, NF Magazine's official video podcast. I'm your host for this week, Evan Campbell, and with me is the always lovely Noah Ward.
Hey everybody, how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing pretty well now. How are you doing?
I'm good. I think I'm still coming down from a sugar rush. Either that or I'm just really excited to be here because I ate that sugar maybe an hour or two ago. Yeah, I guess it was a couple hours ago. So probably not a sugar rush. I'm just genuinely excited to be here.
Yeah, well, it's okay that you're not too excited because we're in that kind of in-between time before we get to E3 where there's a little lull in Nintendo news. And so we don't have too much to talk about. Nintendo is apologizing about the amiibo shortages, though. So they got to get all the bad news out of the way before the big show next month. So we'll be talking about that. We also have some impressions of an older 3DS eShop game, as well as talk about a big 3D platformer that just got funded on Kickstarter, Yooka-Laylee.
Yes, I am excited to talk about that last item. Not so much the first one.
I'll be so curious to talk about Yooka-Laylee because I am someone who has basically never played a Banjo-Kazooie or Donkey Kong 64 game. So all of this hype around Yooka-Laylee is totally indifferent to. I have no idea what's going on. I just see people saying like, this is the resurrection of 3D platforming collectathon. Thank you so much. So it'll be really fun to discuss that with you because you've played both the Banjo-Kazooies, and are you a Donkey Kong 64 fan as well?
I actually played the first Banjo-Kazooie through, and I think I only rented Banjo-Kazooie 2, but I also owned Donkey Kong 64 and played a little bit of it. And at that time, I was pretty much over collecting everything, and I did not like the mandatory selection of monkeys or the options of monkeys to play as. They were just not fun. So yeah, I kind of fell out of love with it. But I do. Banjo-Kazooie is one of my all-time favorite Nintendo 64 games. I think it's one of the best 3D platformers out there. I could go on about it, but I'll let you continue the introduction.
Yeah, stop talking, Noah. We're done with you for this part of the show.
Exit stage right.
Cut off. Totally cut off. So yes, let's get into what we're playing first. And no, it doesn't look like you've had time to play much of anything lately.
Well, I've been in little small tidbits playing some Phoenix Wright on the side. I played it until I fell asleep last night. The 3DS one, the Dual Destinies.
Okay, because I was thinking they re-released the trilogy on the eShop too, right? The first 3 games.
Yeah, before I go back and replay something that I played years ago, I want to get through the Phoenix Wright game and then, of course, the Phoenix Wright Professor Layton game as well. Even though, from everything I've read, it just sounds like it's a bit of a slog that just goes on forever and ever and ever and ever, much like Mario and Luigi Dream Team. That's another slog game that I can think of.
Did you ever finish Professor Layton and the Miracle Mask?
Of course not.
Okay.
I'm waiting for you to finish the game after that.
Yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that game recently until I opened a drawer and I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, I never finished the 6th game. And it made me think when you were bringing up Phoenix Wright, does it just feel like you've played, because I mean, what is Dual Destinies? Is it the 5th or 6th or 7th entry in the series?
Well, if you want to talk about the style of Phoenix Wright game it's probably the 5th, but there were 2 Miles Edgeworth games in between, only one of which unfortunately was released here in North America. So with that in mind, I guess it's the 8th, and I'm probably missing some other random title. But yeah, there's 3 Phoenix Wright games. Then there was the Apollo Justice game, then the Miles Edgeworth game, which wasn't a traditional Phoenix Wright game, and now this one, Dual Destinies.
Do you just feel like it's too much of the same stuff where it's just hard to be enthused about playing through it or whatever? Because I feel, for me, Azran Legacy, it's a really well-produced game. It looks gorgeous. The story piqued my interest and everything, but it wasn't that I was like dreading playing it. I just had no motivation, I feel like.
Yeah, I think that both of us have franchise fatigue with both Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright, particularly because unlike Zelda games, for instance, or the major Mario platformer games, there isn't a lot of difference. There isn't a new, unique gameplay concept being introduced to make it seem a little bit newer again. It's just a really well polished, well oiled machine. But I'm almost through it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens afterwards because they have really cool storylines that thread through the entire game, even though you have disparate cases. So, much like Professor Layton, the games link together. There's cool character threads to follow, and that's my love for those characters. Perhaps duller because I'm a little bit burned out, but still definitely there. So I'm going to play it through and see it to the end.
All right, we're gonna hold you to that. I'm gonna start bringing up every week the old Dual Destinies checkup with Noah Ward. You're gonna have homework every week. What's your goal? When do you think you could reasonably finish Dual Destinies?
Well, if it was like how I used to play it, I'd probably have it done in a couple weeks, I would assume. But I've been playing this game for like over a year. It's just like a little bit here, a little bit there. Like, oh, 8 months went by. Oh, let me play it again. So what's the difference between like 2 weeks and a year? I guess like 6 months. That would be really sad if it took me that long to finish the game at this point. I'm kind of dedicated to getting through it. And then I'm thinking like, why am I doing this when I just started Majora's Mask 3D like a month ago when I got my new 3DS XL? But such as it is, such as it is.
Don't bring up Majora's Mask 3D because I put that aside when I got to. I'm like I think it's Snow Peak Mountain or whatever, and I swear Majora's Mask 3D. I don't know what it is about that game, but I put it down and just don't want to go back to it. I like just something about that Zelda game, and I'm going to go back to it. I feel like I have to finish it, but there's something about that game that's really different compared to every other console Zelda game I've played, where I'm like want to finish it. This one, I'm just like, whatever. Even with all the hype and praise surrounding it, I still like even this far in, I'm just like, what? Like it just did that Termania? Is it Termania? Am I
Termina?
Termina. It should be Termania. Termania sounds
Termania.
Termina. It just doesn't jibe with me. I just don't. I don't. There's nothing exploratory. I feel like it's so puzzle focused and all these different characters and everything. I feel like that's just a big disconnect for me with everything. In Zelda, I want to explore, and that was probably one of my main beefs with Skyward Sword too. You started revisiting the same places over and over again, and that's why I'm so ecstatic about this huge open world Zelda. That's what I like. I like the sense of discovery, going everywhere and everything. So yeah. But speaking. What was that?
When we have these stories, I feel a little guilty. We're co-hosting this Nintendo show and talking about all these games that we didn't finish that are old. And in case you are a new audience member who has joined us with your new subscription to NF Magazine, and if you don't have one, you want to get one, you can go to nfmagazine.com, BT-dub, digital or print or both. You can get them both. But there are games that we have finished. There are games that have just grabbed me, such as Luigi's Mansion 2 or Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon or Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. Those games just grabbed me, and I could not stop playing them until they were finished. And I remember when I used to do that more often than not, but I don't know. Are we just jaded, Evan? I don't know what it is. We're just
I don't think
too many shinies.
I think it's probably rarer for people to constantly beat games than it is for people to just pick up different games and never finish them. I feel like that's the normal, that people play a bunch of different games and don't finish them compared to a person completing every single game they play. Now, I get Majora's Mask is kind of an outlier there because it's a Zelda game, but I'd say in general, most people don't beat every game that they play. I'd love to hear from everyone out there, but that's how I was growing up when I was a teenager. It was like I'd play a game, and then if a new game came out, whoop, that game got tossed aside. I mean, I can remember like GameCube days, just like I never beat Metroid, the original Metroid Prime. I was like 12 hours in, and then what would have come out in 2002, 2000? It came out around Christmas. I probably got another game and started playing that, and then that got set aside. Maybe it's Time Splitters 2 or something. That would have been 2002. Maybe that's 2003. But yeah, I was really bad about that. And then recently I've tried to be more focused on beating games. But I feel like with the new 3DS, we just got a ton of games all at once. So I was playing a lot of Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate with Majora's Mask. And guess what? Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate won out that battle.
No surprises there.
Because it's a better game. I will say that I think Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate is better than Majora's Mask 3D. I don't know if you can compare them, but that is the official NF show. No, that's the official NF show ruling right there.
No, there is no
that's our motto.
Unless we're both agreeing on it, because you do not speak for the entire show. I'm here too, unless you're doing a solo show now.
I think I'm hosting though. Doesn't that give me priority? It's like a 2-to-1 vote in that instance.
Well, then that means that every week you are overruled. Every other week.
Oh, you can't do. We don't vote back. You can make up your own rules next week. The next episode. Anyway, I've been playing an older 3DS game as well, and that's Harmonite.
Wow, you actually got Harmonite. You're playing a rhythm game on 3DS.
You seem befuddled by this.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because like, for instance, I told you that you definitely should check out Rhythm Thief. This is kind of like a general PSA. I loved Rhythm Thief. Early in 3DS's lifespan. And of course, you never got it. And now you've gotten Harmonite. So what's the story behind that?
So there's a key difference between Rhythm Thief and Harmonite. And that's that Harmonite is available for Club Nintendo coins.
Oh, so this is just a case of, well, since it's free, I have it.
Yeah, and when we say free, meaning I've bought a ton of Nintendo stuff in the past and do their little surveys. I guess those surveys will be going away, so I get my reward or whatever. So yeah, that's why I got Harmonite. I believe it's 300 coins here in North America if you have the spare coinage to check it out or whatever. And I am not the biggest rhythm game person. That's probably why I never checked out Rhythm Thief. And you're not the only one. There are a lot of people that are big fans behind Rhythm Thief. And playing Harmonite makes me more apprehensive to play Rhythm Thief.
Yeah.
I'm just not a big rhythm game fan. And I'm okay at the games. It's not like I'm terrible or anything, but I don't get that much enjoyment out of them, I feel like. And I'd say Harmonite, though, is not that fantastic either. It's come across very kind of average, and kind of take a few steps back. My first time with Harmonite there was the demo when it first came out. I was pretty excited. It looks like a cool game and everything. And I played the demo, and you do a couple regular levels that are easy, and then you do a B boss battle type thing, which is just this shocking jump in difficulty.
So hard.
And I was just like, I couldn't figure it out, and I just got frustrated. I was like, you know what? I don't want this game from Nintendo or whatever because of that B fight. And I saw some things like, oh, that boss fight comes much later. They don't know why they put it in the demo. And that's true after playing it. So I'm about 5 worlds into Harmonite. But what I found, I mean, it's a pretty quick game to get through, Noah. I'm not like, if I just get like a good score, average score, I'm just like, yeah, whatever game. Take me out to the next level. Usually I like stress. I'm like someone playing a new Super Mario Brothers game where it's like, I need those 3 star coins in each level before I move on. With this game, I'm just like, I'm just curious what it's all about and everything. But there are, in basically almost every world, there are multiple boss or mini boss fights where it's like a quick time event, like that beat boss battle. And if you don't hit like the last hit on the thing, no matter what you've done,
fail.
Yep, fail. Start back over. No checkpoints. And that is just an immediate, like, screw this. Like, because even though I did adequate throughout to get to this last hit, because my timing wasn't good for this last hit, you fail the entire thing. Like, I don't know what was going on. And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, maybe this is like a rhythm game staple or something. I have no idea, but it just seems like the dumbest design decision. And I've like pushed my way through, but I'm just like, this game is pretty crappy in that regard. So like all of these boss battles suck. I don't care how cinematic they are and everything, because they have this like instant fail at the very end, no matter what, that you then have to replay and watch the little cinematic things in between. Like that just immediately makes me want to toss the game in the garbage, which for me, my whole 3DS, because it's a downloadable game. My sentiments still are there, still remain.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you say that because I really like rhythm games. And when I finally decided to commit and buy Harmonite before my trip to Japan last year, I thought, oh, this is awesome. I've got a 17-hour flight. If only my 3DS lasted that long on battery power and I could easily backup power it, which of course it didn't. I played it until it died. But Harmonite was one of those games that I got back into. And I remember the B level and I thought, wow, this is weird. It's not a B level. It's a bunch of wolves instead. And it's a little bit easier. And it makes a little bit more sense in context that I've gone from one land area to another land area versus I've gone from being on land to all of a sudden flying through canyons over an ocean. But that aside, the game is surprisingly picky about its timing, and it's very easy to get off beat or fall out of the timing or fall out of the rhythm, so to speak. And it's from that perspective, I don't think it's very friendly to rhythm game newcomers. As much as it tries to be charming and have a nice little tutorial at the beginning to tell you how to play the game, it can get really many. And that whole starting back at the beginning.
It's talky. It is such a talky game, talking about like the demo and stuff for a rhythm game. Sorry to interrupt, but that
which we know you don't like.
That was a pretty major annoyance for me too. It was giving me this story about these noisoids or whatever and stuff, and I was like, there was some clever writing in there, don't get me wrong, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this is a rhythm game where I press 2 buttons. Let me freaking play. All right, sorry.
I forgot where I was going with that, but my summary is, not surprised you have issues with it. It's a demanding rhythm game. And oh yeah, that the penalty of having to restart or getting kicked out of a level, I feel like it's a key design decision that every developer makes with music games. And I thought it was kind of notable that the new Guitar Hero game does not boo and kick you off stage and make you quit a song if you do poor. They just let you keep playing all the way through until you finish it, which I think that's so much better, because being forced to play through a section that you have down, you've played a million times up until a part where it's all of a sudden really challenging or you just can't quite get it, or you're surprised by a quick time event, for instance, that breaks the mold of what you've been doing up until that point. I just think it's a really rough experience, and it artificially pads out the game length by making you play stuff that you know or you can do really well over and over, just to punish you when you get to that one part that's just too hard.
Yeah.
So I think in general, any music game worth its salt should just either downgrade you or maybe give you a lower grade on the level, but let you keep going through, because it's just so discouraging otherwise. And it can burn you out not only on the game, but also the genre.
I just think that QuickTime event type stuff, even, I mean, I don't know how many rhythm games it's in, but here in particular, it just feels so dated and it has no place. And I mean, this game, to be fair, came out in what, 2013 possibly? I think it was 2013.
Or 12, yeah. It seems like it's pretty old.
I mean, it's a couple of years old at this point, but in 2015, and I had the same annoyances playing the original Bayonetta, and you don't go as far back, but these instant fail kind of quick time event things, that's just, I don't want to deal with it. That just needs to end. Quick time events in general, I feel like sort of need to die off, unless there is something cool, like you said, not only with Guitar Hero, but if you have a quick time event, you don't hit it, there's two things that happen. You either are successful with it or you fail, but it continues to go on. This whole do it again so you can get the right timing with the button press or whatever. It's just, I'm done with that sort of stuff. And thankfully, Nintendo in general rarely uses quick time events.
Yes, thank goodness.
So it's not something that we have to deal with, and something that I definitely respect on their part. But yeah, Harmonite, I don't know what like the reviews are. I can't remember anything back to that, but that, I'd say it's a very average Nintendo eShop game. I know Game Freak was the developer and everything, but it's a Nintendo published game, and I just don't think it's a worthy contender for your eShop time or money after playing it. I'll probably continue to play through, but maybe someday Rhythm Thief. Is it on the eShop? Speaking of Rhythm Thief, or can you only get, because that came out before everything came out on the eShop?
I'm pretty sure it was not only on the eShop, but it was also available at a discount for a while.
It's got a good story and everything, right?
Yeah, and unlike Harmonite, it actually has lots of different styles of rhythm mini games in it, which can be good or bad. For me, I loved the variety, but for some people, they got frustrated because like, oh no, not this type of game again, because I really suck at this version, but I'm good at all the other ones. And sometimes that can be a bit of a barrier for you. But I never felt that any of them were too punishingly difficult. There's most of them I just blazed through. There's only a few that actually had to replay over and over.
Cool. Well, yeah. Maybe I should buy that and you buy Box Boy, and then we meet up here, have a boxing match on the NF show.
Yeah, and then next week I can make some kind of official NF show proclamation about the lameness of Box Boy.
You've got to play the game before you can diss it, by the way. That's
I would agree with that.
That's a NF show ruling right now. Unless the game's not out yet and you can be bothered by it. Bothered by lacking features, and that's all I'll say about that. But with that, let's get into the news of note. There hasn't been much going on in Nintendo land. Like we said, we're kind of in that pre-E3 lull, although there is a Splatoon Nintendo Direct coming up, speak of the devil. So we'll probably learn more about that, and any new information you can be sure that Noah and I will dissect on next week's episode of the show.
Can't wait.
But this week, let's talk about Yooka-Laylee. It's a 3D platformer and spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, and it comes from ex-Rare developers at Playtonic Games. And Noah, it hit the 1 million mark on Kickstarter faster than any other video game project. It took it only 6 hours.
Wow, that is so amazing. I remember when I went to go and just watch the little promo trailer on the Kickstarter page for it, and as I was watching it, and it's all, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes long, the dollar value pledge just kept ticking up, 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 and just like, wow, people are so excited about this game. It's very impressive how legion the fans are for this classic Rare type of video game to come around again. I wasn't sure if people would have moved on or have been burned out by it, or there just weren't that many who are willing to just throw money at this project. But man, it is incredibly successful so far.
Did you pledge?
No. It's pretty rare that I pledge stuff to Kickstarter. I remember talking about rhythm games. I love Frequency and Amplitude, and I, of course, don't have a PlayStation 4. But I was so torn about it because I loved Amplitude and I loved Frequency because, okay, true confessions, I did have a PS2. And I was just like, man, I love those games. And this new one looks so cool. And I went back and forth on it, thinking like, maybe this will be what makes me get a PS4. That's going to be so sad if that happens. And ultimately, my I don't know, my moral compass went out. I don't know what it is. I just didn't pledge to it. And just like, whatever, I'll wait for it to happen. And that's a game where it barely squeaked by getting funded. And so I felt even more fan guilt to try to pledge, and it's just like, meh, nope. So there's more often than not, I don't pledge. And this isn't one I would pledge for either.
Yeah, I've never pledged to Kickstarter. I don't know why, but usually I'm just like, oh, if it's successful, then I'll buy it when it comes out. Like, so, yeah, I mean, like Shovel Knight's a successful Kickstarter story and everything like that. So yeah. I think there's 2 ways to go about it and everything. So for me, Yooka-Laylee, saying that I've never really Kickstarted anything, and then the fact that Yooka-Laylee is a 3D platformer that I don't get the excitement around going around and collecting coins. That's not to, I'm just not familiar with this concept. I'm not trying to.
You never got into it.
I'm not trying to rain on anybody's parade, but I kind of watched the video and stuff, and like I said, it was just a total disconnect where I'm just like, I don't get this. Like I see just the fever and cheers and everyone going wild about this game. And I think it looks really cute and everything like that. But my 3D platforming experience is basically Mario games, a little more action and stuff to them than what I've seen in this and what I'm familiar with Banjo-Kazooie. Um, with that in mind, do you think I would be a big fan of Banjo-Kazooie or Yooka-Laylee? And what am I missing?
Well, thinking back to something that you mentioned earlier about looking forward to the next Zelda game, um, you might like it. The thing that I don't like about collectathon games, and it's so weird that that's what they're called now. I don't remember. I don't know if they were actually called that back in the years that these were being released, but it it kind of prescribes to you the path that you should take or tells you where to go. And I kind of like more organic exploration. That said, you can also view collectathon games as kind of 3D platform puzzle games in that you can see stuff off in the distance or something that seems wildly out of reach, and you're in a contained stage. So you know that there's something in the environment, there's some kind of tricky path or ability that you should use that will get you up there and help you grab that. So it's kind of like going after the green stars in new Super Mario 3D World, or going after the gold coins, whatever, the star coins and Mario 64. Every Mario game has had them. Usually there's only 3, whereas the rare games not only had coins but also other special items to go after. And so where I'm tying this into is, you said that you like the idea of having a game where you can explore and go do what you want. So the way that I think of Banjo-Kazooie and also the Donkey Kong 64 games is you don't have one huge seamless connected world per se, but you do have large levels where you can go all sorts of different directions, and there's kind of puzzles that can help inspire you to go one direction or another, and there's secrets that are hidden around. So if you like that idea of exploring, if you're an explorer game archetype, if you're, I don't know if there's those of you out there familiar with, I can't remember his name. He's a very important figure in MMO land. His name starts with a B or something, but he talked about there's 4 player archetypes. There's like a socializer and an explorer and a fighter and an achiever or something like that. Explorer types would like this type of game. If you like 3D worlds and going around and trying to figure out how to get everything in the stage, it's kind of cool. Whereas with the Mario game, you're going from point A to point B. You can optionally collect these weird, hard to reach things, but it's more just about getting to the finish line. So I don't know. Does that say steer you one way or the other?
Possibly. I would like to try out a Banjo-Kazooie game, but that's not possible on Wii U, obviously, because that IP went with Rare when they went to Microsoft.
Yeah.
And there's Donkey Kong 64 that's now available, but I've seen the Donkey Kong rap, and it looks like garbage nowadays. Like I'm not trying to be mean, but that game did not age gracefully. That's no Super Mario World or anything like that, where it's kind of stood the test of time. And I've seen such divisive things on Donkey Kong 64. I've seen people just be like, don't compare this to Banjo-Kazooie or whatever. So once again, I would love to hear what you all out there think of that. So I'm open to it. I'm not, you describing and stuff doesn't put me off by any stretch of the imagination. And maybe Yooka-Laylee will be my introduction, because it's definitely coming. I think it's planned for October 2016. I guess one of the concerns when you get so much money is, could there be feature creep with the game?
Over-promising.
Over-promising, which can be difficult with Kickstarter, unless you're a master at delivering, like NF Magazine is. Sorry, just had to get that out there. If you know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's awesome. I'm really excited that people out there are excited about Yooka-Laylee. It's awesome that it's coming to Wii U. And hopefully it does for 3D platformers. Not that we were in need of 2D platformers or retro-inspired platformers, but I hope it finds kind of the same success that Shovel Knight has.
Then that brings up something that it's weird to me is I get more excited about 2D platformers than I do about 3D platformers, even though they came later and they seemed even cooler. And if I don't know if I should feel hypocritical or confused about that, that it's like, why would I like a really old style of game, but not be quite as excited about this? But I will leave you with one other thought. I remember exactly how I felt about Banjo-Kazooie when I played it, and I played it through. I remember loving Super Mario 64 and thinking that was one of the best games ever. It was incredible,
It
and there were other
is.
people coming out with 3D platformers that just didn't compare.
Gex.
Yes. And Banjo-Kazooie came out, and I just played that obsessively. It was incredible graphics at the time and really great music. And the thing that I kept saying to myself is, I can't believe that somebody has taken the formula of Mario 64 and improved it and made it even better. And I ended up at the time, I don't know if I would still feel this way now, decades later, but I felt that Banjo-Kazooie was better than Mario 64, and Mario 64 was my original best platformer, potentially best game ever, and Banjo-Kazooie displaced that for me. So that might have been my feeling at the time. The games that I played, what was coming out. I'm not sure I would feel that way now. I don't know if Yooka-Laylee will be as impressive or as amazing to me because there's been so many other things that have come out since. But if you loved Mario 64 to death like I did, there's a chance, collecting aside, which wasn't the main thing that I loved about Banjo-Kazooie, it was everything else, you would really like Yooka-Laylee.
What's your favorite 3D platformer all time? Just name it. Don't get too worried about
I
it.
think that it would I mean, not remembering every single one that I've played, I think it would be actually Banjo-Kazooie. Even though I don't even like the character designs and I think they're kind of obnoxious, I love the design of Yooka-Laylee. I'm like, this is the same guy? And it's like, yeah, I guess I can see that. But I think the Yooka-Laylee character designs are awesome. But then it was kind of weird because he's like, we really spend a lot of time thinking about what the abilities are that the bat and the chameleon would have, and it really influenced how we animate them. And it's a very natural ability, natural things that they're doing, except a little bit exaggerated. And I watched him like, they're doing all the exact same things that Banjo-Kazooie did. So is it really a natural thing? Or like where does the chameleon change color? Or where does the bat use sonar, shriek? I mean, those would be natural things I'd expect. And I'm seeing them do the exact same things that Banjo-Kazooie did, but there's probably more to it beyond what we saw in that teaser video.
Yeah, mine's Super Mario Galaxy 2. Hands down. That game is phenomenal.
Okay, so I was thinking about it from the perspective of the old days, but yeah, it'd probably be a Mario Galaxy title of all time. So thank you for pointing that out.
Okay. I wasn't trying to trick you. It said favorite 3D platformer.
I know. I don't know. I was just stuck in I was
That's
stuck in the
okay.
past.
There's people that Super Mario 64 is still, and I totally expect if you've never watched Super Mario 64 speed running or any type of speed running or master play, definitely check that out, everyone. It is just crazy and gives you a whole new appreciation for that game. Even 19 years later, which is nuts. It's almost 20 years old. Almost 20 years old. Well, Nintendo has also sent out a response to the amiibo shortages to bring us into the current day. They have apologized. It's kind of an apology.
Typical Nintendo PR spin.
They do apologize. They do outright state that. So I'm going to read the full, not the full, but most of the statement that Nintendo of America put out. And here we go. Should I put on like a special voice for this? I won't. I'll just try to sound more PR-y spin.
Okay.
We appreciate the enthusiasm that our fans continue to show toward Amiibo. Sales for the product have exceeded our expectations. We understand how frustrating it can be at times that consumers aren't able to find certain figures, and we apologize for that. We're trying to meet the demands of our fans and consumers by increasing the amount of Amiibo we manufacture and ship to retail. We may continue to see consumer demand outpace supply levels for certain characters at times, but we will do our best to prevent that from happening. As our library of Amiibo continues to grow, some figures will be easier to find than others. We are constantly looking for the opportunity to reissue amiibo. We are constantly looking for the opportunity to reissue amiibo and are already making plans to bring some back currently out of stock amiibo figures. Stay tuned for details. Did we get that? If we didn't get that, Noah just gave the biggest eye roll ever.
I think I might have done it right before I flipped the camera over, but it just is. It's a little late to finally say something like this, and then it also seems out of sync with the fact that they've already said specific figures that they were going to reissue, and then this statement makes it seem like it's vague and undecided again, and it's just. I kind of agree with the angry Nintendo fans in this who are saying this would make sense if this was the first wave or the second wave. It's like Nintendo, are you honestly thinking that because you've mismanaged this so poorly now up to the fourth wave that finally the everybody's going to turn on you and nobody's going to want amiibo so soon? I think it would take at least a good year or two before something this hot would truly fall out of fashion and burn people out. But if Nintendo continues to bungle stuff like that, then yeah, maybe it will come sooner than later. But it's good that something's been said. Something needs to have been said. And the awkward position Nintendo is in is there's really very little they could say that could change things, because they're not going to say, and now we're going to offer amiibo on demand and we'll be able to provide everybody's, that would be like the only thing they could say that would make people happy. Like you may have to wait a week or two longer, but place the order on our website. We're handling it now. We're taking it out of the hands of the retailers who are doing us wrong. We are going to fulfill your wishes. They're not going to do that. They didn't do that. And instead, and ending with that kind of weasel worded, like, something's going to happen, stay tuned for when we say something again 8 months from now. That's really not encouraging or making people feel better.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. This statement reads like something that should have come out maybe after the holiday season, like in January, and was like, you know what, this has caught us off guard. But to say this, January, February, March, April, we're in May, basically a half a year after they debuted, to then just be like, oh, you guys have exceeded our expectations. Like, it almost reads like, is this some kind of PR statement that Nintendo of America tried to push and it kept getting axed by Nintendo headquatures executive? Like, I mean, like, this is, and like you said, there is no solution to any of this, especially what makes this even easier to criticize, Noah, is the fact that we have Wave 4 coming out later this month, and there's no signs that shipments have been increased or it's been any easier to find. I mean, I had issues with Ness. It's a GameStop exclusive. You luckily got Jigglypuff at Target because you just happen to be on your computer and stuff. I mean, the fact that you just have to luckily be on your computer and you have less than a 30-minute window, and then that, or you need to like line up at a Target or Best Buy or whatever your favorite retailer is to grab one of these figures on the first day they're available. There's no just going through and finding some of these figures. It's just ridiculous. And like you said, there's no solutions in the statement. We have seen, I think Japan has started getting reissues. And here's the other funny thing that could start more of a collectathon to bring that back into this is some of the reissues in Japan, it looks like the figures are different.
They're tweaked.
So that can cause people to be like, oh, I have to have both Marth versions, Marth 1.0 and Marth 2.0. And it makes me wonder if they're using cheaper manufacturing standards. Maybe they're not coming together as well, or the molds, or who knows what's happening. But this is just, I think part of the problem is not only I do believe that people have exceeded their expectations, because you could go back to our shows and we had no idea. We thought it, because there's no functionality that was outright stated with how Amiibo work with games, that they could just kind of fall flat, not be a bomb, but people just wouldn't get it. And that's been the opposite case. I don't think people care at all. They just love the little figures.
Yeah.
But the fact is, just having so many different waves, you think I would think that one of the ways to fix this would be like, you know what? We know we have a lot of Super Smash Brothers characters coming out. We know you all want them at a time, but we're gonna do this slow, make sure everyone gets a chance, and spread out the waves by 3 months maybe. And just be like, we're gonna have these 6 characters, you're gonna be able to find them. We're not making rare ones. These are on the shelves, and then slow 3 months you phase in wave 2. And I mean, for a lot of people that have been able to get them all, they may not like that, but I think that'd be one of the ways that they could help meet demand and not have these shortages.
Yeah. Yeah, and if anything, Wave 4 has been the worst one yet in terms of trying to get anything. The trend is showing things getting worse, not getting better. And you think it would be completely the opposite. It's like, oh yeah, Wave 4, you can get any of those. They're not hard to get like they were in Wave 1. Obviously, Nintendo adopted a new strategy. They're actually manufacturing an even number of everything, and it's all readily available. It's not. It's like it's the opposite of that. There's more retailer exclusives. There's complete radio silence on when you can pre-order it on one site or from one retailer or another. And the retailers are pointing their fingers back at Nintendo as being the source of the problem. It's just a total mess.
Yeah, so we'll see how things evolve with Nintendo. It'll be interesting. I feel like they're going to be even more under the microscope after putting out this statement. I mean, this is going to be thrown back at them constantly if, like you said, Wave 4 is any indication and things don't get better from here on out. Yeah. So, and we know that more amiibo are coming. We know that the Animal Crossing cards are going to be on the way later this year for, is it Happy Home Designer? I can't remember the subtitle
what it is
of the 3DS game. And you got to believe there's going to be some huge new amiibo reveals at E3 next month. I'm sure that I wouldn't be surprised if they bust out Wave 5 and possibly 6 of Smash Brothers. But you got to think there's either Pokemon or Animal Crossing or some new IP where amiibo are big. It's going to be a major focus. So the amiibo craze will continue to go on, and Nintendo will definitely be hyping it up. So that'll be really interesting. I'm so curious. I still believe it. And I guess the cards could play into this, but I think we're going to see Animal Crossing for Wii U. I think that's going to be one of the big surprise games for this holiday. And I think that the 3DS spinoff title is there's going to be a lot of connectivity between those two games.
I mean, it just makes sense. Why not only make these cards for a 3DS game, but also make them for Wii U? So much like in the spirit of the amiibo that have come out that have been cross-functional between different games and different franchises, make the Animal Crossing stuff apply to both a Wii U title and a 3DS title. It just totally makes sense. It encourages people who have only one of those devices even more likely to get into the card mania.
Yeah. And I'm so curious. I know everyone says Pokemon is, and we've had like the Pokemon Rumble U and everything, but will we see a mainline Pokemon game with amiibo or another Pokemon spinoff game, or will we have another remake of possibly the DS games? And there's different boxes to buy and you get a little starter Pokemon amiibo, and that's it. I'm so curious. I'm excited about the games. I'm not someone who, everyone knows I'm upset about my NES amiibo and stuff, but I'm still excited how they evolve amiibo and everything. So it'll be fun to see that.
I'm predicting augmented reality amiibo for 3DS, where it's a card and it's like you never actually have a figure, but you scan it and then you can see it via augmented reality through your 3DS camera.
They sort of already have those with photos with Mario.
Yeah, totally.
There you go. There you go. Let us know what you think Nintendo's going to do with Amiibo next. You can always email us at show@nfmagazine.com or leave a comment right here on our YouTube page. And with that, I'm going to hand it off to Noah, who's going to go through the fantastic feedback from our last episode. Noah?
Thank you very much, Evan. So as it turns out, when we don't have a lot of news to talk about, apparently we talk even more. So we are running a little bit late in this episode, but we definitely want to include the feedback. Here we go. First up in the email, we have from Kisaki Project. Love the show as always. I also had people over, like Noah, to play Smash now that Mewtwo is out. It was fun. 8 players, is always chaos. It totally is. I also got them to check out Mario Kart 8. 200cc was the madness I desired. It was great to get them to play it. Those new stages are really amazing. I've started being my me in the Sonic costume, driving a Mercedes. I'm fairly sure this is blasphemy against Nintendo, but it makes it all the more funny when I win. I've now put more than 70 hours into the game. Also, it's totally non-Nintendo, but old school 1990s should check out Bloodborne if he hasn't already. Kisaki Project.
I love the Sonic Mercedes me costume combo. That's pretty awesome. I just won a circuit. I scanned my Mega Man amiibo and put that suit on and raced, and that was pretty cool. I think I like it more than the Samus costume. I'm not quite sure. They're both all right. That Pac-Man costume is pretty awesome. We talked about that last week.
Yeah, totally. And I love that people in our audience are now recommending games to each other. It's like we have this ever-growing interconnected community, and that's just so awesome. Our next email is from Nintendo Dad, who I was thinking of earlier when Evan and I were talking about not finishing games, because Nintendo Dad is so good at playing through and finishing games and always has great feedback for the show. Here's what he wrote this week. Listening to your show last week brought back some old memories when one of the listeners talked about calling the old Nintendo helpline. I'm old enough to have been gaming when that was still available, and yes, I called it twice. I can still remember the two reasons I called. The first was a game that Noah mentioned, Castlevania II Simon's Quest. I got to a point in the game that I just didn't know what to do. I remember using the holy water on every single brick in that game, looking for a secret passage I might be missing, but nothing. I finally convinced my parents to let me call the helpline. I was told to kneel at a cliff beside a lake while holding a blue crystal or something similar. Yes. When you did that, a secret passage was revealed under the lake. I would have never figured that out on my own. So true. The second time I called the helpline was for a game called Ninja Gaiden. I had gotten to the final boss, and after losing a few times, got frustrated and made the call. I was told to target the tail, then the midsection, then the head. Again, the details may be a little off. I probably could have figured that out on my own if I tried harder. There was also a Nintendo 900 tip line that would update each week. I think I called it three or four times until my parents got the phone bill and put an end to that. Are you guys old enough to have called either of those lines? Nintendo Dad.
I remember those hotline numbers, but I never called. I was pretty young and feared what my parents would do to me. It also helped for me that I had an older brother who had a group of friends who were all Nintendo diehards that were in their preteen and early teenage years. We're talking people that had like the super glove or the power glove. I should be
lambasted.
Yeah, for that, the power glove. So I kind of had them if I had any problems, and I feel like I don't know if one of them called the hotlines. I wouldn't be surprised, but I can't remember my brother and I ever calling it. What about you, Noah?
Yeah, I don't think I could have ever gotten permission for that, especially since I was also getting the magazines and subscribing to those. But those magazines are how I actually got through that stupid part of Castlevania 2, because this was back when localization of games were really bad, and there was villagers in that game who gave very esoteric, abstract, or completely unintelligible clues. And that whole kneel by the lake thing, I remember, since it was such a notorious puzzle in the game, it was mentioned, I think, in a video game letter sections one or two times, and that's what got me through that, thank goodness, or else I wouldn't have finished that game. But I am proud that is part of my nascent young boy video gaming street cred, is getting through that game and Legend of Zelda 2 Adventure of Link. Those two games, you know, if old man Noah played those games now, I'm not sure I would have gotten through them. But when I was a child, I was much more determined. Like,
so child Noah,
the only game that I have.
So child Noah wouldn't have been a big fan of older Noah.
No, he would have been like, you're a loser. You need to try harder. Let's get into the comments from last week's episode. First up, we have from the Seventh Experiment. Evan, I am very happy you bought the DLC for Mario Kart 8. My favorite of the new pack, in terms of tracks, would definitely be Big Blue, which was Evan's favorite. I also really enjoyed Wild World. Neo Bowser City was my favorite track for Mario Kart 7, so I'm glad it made a comeback.
Me too.
Yeah, I actually agree with that too. Last week, Evan asked if Story of Seasons would be a better starting point versus Harvest Moon, Friends of Mineral Town. Personally, I feel that Story of Seasons would be a better starting point. The reason I say that is because it's the first game in the series that includes 2 difficulty levels. There's a seeding level for beginners and a normal level. I feel like the seeding level would be beneficial for someone who's new to the series. However, I'm not sure you'll be able to change the difficulty once you start. Mainly the difference is that things will cost less, stamina won't go down as quickly, and requirements to unlock things are lower. The game is also a lot more updated since it's the most recent. So if you were to ask me, begin with Story of Seasons, the 7th experiment.
Well, I wouldn't do seedling. I'm no seedling. I'm normal. Do that normal level.
Yeah, but what version of Fire Emblem Awakening did you play?
The whatever permadeath.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought you played easy mode.
I didn't do like. There is like an extra hard. I did permadeath and like the normal. I didn't do
Regular
easy.
mode.
Yeah.
I call regular mode flawless victory mode because I couldn't handle permadeath, and so whenever somebody died, I just keep playing that one stage over and over and over. And it's hard to do that in Fire Emblem because you can't go back and like grind experience or something. Once a battle's done, it's gone. Oh, that was a little rough, but it was fun. Got me. Next comment is from Nintendo Do GCN. Just wanted to share what I've been playing lately. I ended up getting Xenoblade Chronicles 3D. This is my first experience with the game as I missed it the first time around on Wii.
Cool.
While I found the first few hours to be a bit slow, that all changed once I was able to get out and start exploring the vast expanses of land. I was just completely taken aback when Guar Plains panned across the screen upon my first visit there. What at first was a game that I struggled to get into has become a game that I can hardly put down. I've also come back to Mario Kart 8 due to the new DLC, and like you, Evan, I'm in love with that big blue stage. Best stage of this new batch. I also redeemed my Club Nintendo Platinum status and got Pushmo World, which is my first experience with Pushmo. It's a really clever game. I do get bored pretty quickly with it, so I've been finding it more enjoyable to play in short bursts of a few puzzles here and there. Lastly, I just recently put in my pre-order for Splatoon. I'm really excited for that game. Like you both, I'm not expecting much from the single player, but I definitely can't wait to get my Inkling customized and start laying down ink in multiplayer. Nintendo Do GCN.
It's pretty cool.
Very cool.
Splatoon's almost here. I mean, we've got the direct coming, but we're only a few weeks away, which is crazy.
You know, I'm kind of fretting about that because I don't know if anybody out there lives in an apartment, but I do. My lease is up, and unfortunately, I need to move. And Splatoon is coming out right around that time, and it's just like, oh my gosh. Is my Wii U even going to be hooked up at that time? Am I going to have internet connection? I'm a little bit worried that my Splatoon time is going to be delayed, and that really stinks. But something else that kind of impresses me, Evan, is the number of people or that we're hearing people pre-ordering Splatoon when I don't think there are even any bonuses, but people are pre-ordering the game nevertheless.
Yeah, it's a Nintendo game. I'm not too surprised. It looks great, so
it does look good, but for me, I'm only going to pre-order something if there's some kind of special bonus included. And of course, Japan's getting something, and I think Europe is getting something, but we're not getting anything. So it's like, you know what, Nintendo, I will show you the pre-order dollars when you actually start showing some sweet inclusions that don't sell out within 1 hour.
It's a slippery slope.
Rika Majora's Mask bundle.
Then you get retailer exclusive pre-order bonuses, and then no one gets anything they want, and mayhem. Pre-order mayhem.
Our next email is from Keenan Darnell, who wrote, Noah, I also pre-ordered Splatoon and the 3 amiibo pack. I am super pumped for this game. As for receiving your pre-order, you should have no problem. UPS forwards mail to another address for 6 months easily. Yes. I'm excited about the Skells and Xenoblade Chronicles X. I've always loved the real combat mech look from games like MechWarrior 2, Heavy Gear, Front Mission, and Cybernator, which I feel Xenoblade Chronicles X uses. It seems to have a very realistic approach because they even have a Skell insurance as if it's a car. Yes, exactly.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, that's part of the stuff that I'm just like, too complicated. All right. Also, Noah Keenan continues, get Box Boy. Well, not if you don't want to, but it's great, so you should want to.
And it's a $5. You probably spend more on a cup of Joe at Starbucks than you
I
would
don't drink
on
coffee.
Well, if you did. Your Mountain Dews.
It's cheaper than my lunch if I go out to lunch for sure.
Yeah.
Anyways, Evan, yes, the Big Blue music in Mario Kart 8 is amazing. I've listened to it so much since Nintendo posted the recording. Good call on picking up the DLC. So, Evan, you've been affirmed numerous times this episode. How do you feel?
I'm always right. Feels good. We need to have an episode where we just like do the introduction and then just play the Big Blue music from Mario Kart 8 on repeat for 30 minutes and then come back on and be like, thank you. Then out.
I think our subscribers would go down if we did that, but that's just
Nope.
Next comment is from Scribble36. Hey guys, love the show. I've been watching since the beginning, but this is my first time writing in.
Hey,
that's awesome. Thank you, Scribble36. It's so cool. Scribble36 continues. I'd like some advice if you're willing. I currently own a new Nintendo 3DS XL. These names. And a Wii U, along with far too many amiibo. I'm graduating high school at the end of this year and will be attending college next year. So my question is, should I leave my Wii U at home next year? I feel like it's the responsible thing to do in terms of focusing on my education, and only buying handheld games would save me a lot of money. I also find the 3DS library far more appealing overall, and it's not like there are a lot of must-play Wii U games left to come out. It's just hard for me as a hardcore Nintendo fan to essentially sever half of my products from me for 4 years, even if I only use it maybe 30% of the time. What do you guys think? And if you went to college and played games then, what was your college gaming life like, Evan?
All right. So this is a tricky one, I feel like, in a lot of ways, because I probably did play more handheld games in college. And especially when you first get to college, I feel like it's such a transitional stage that your gaming life will be altered and you probably won't be gaming as much, especially if you're going away to college, which it sounds like you are.
Yeah.
That said, the good thing about taking your Wii U or any other home console is you're going to have more people around you at all times than you've probably ever had before. So games like Mario Kart 8 and Super Smash Brothers and all of these awesome multiplayer games. I mean, Super Mario 3D World, for instance, you're going to have other people to play on the same screen with you. So that would be one of the big cons not bringing it, because you're going to have hopefully you're going to have a bunch of friends and they're all going to want to play. And a lot of people will end up hanging out and playing those games.
For me, I didn't actually go to college where I actually lived at the college. I actually stayed at home with my parents to make it more affordable. So it was more boring, but I definitely played tons of Nintendo during college. We would have game nights and game weekends and just play. And I think it's cool that you're trying to be responsible and think in advance, like, well, it could be total distraction, or I'd have to worry about, I don't know, people partying and damaging it or whatever. But I think it's actually a good learning experience to figure out how to manage your gaming time once you have complete control of your schedule and your time when you're not living at home with your parents. It helps you grow up. And I think that as fun as games are, you will find a way to balance that out. And I don't think necessarily that you should worry about your studies suffering for it. It'll just be like, oh, wait, nope, don't have time. And you'll learn to be able to allot time for it. And getting to what Evan's talking about, I actually didn't play handheld games hardly at all during my college years. I was all about Nintendo 64 multiplayer sessions to date myself. But Wii U doesn't have a lot more games coming down the pipeline, but it does have a number of really excellent multiplayer games, whether you're talking about the obvious ones like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, but there's also stuff like Nintendo Land. And those are such great experiences to have. And exactly what Evan said, college is the perfect time to do multiplayer gaming, because everybody's going to be on weird schedules and everybody's going to be interested in distractions when they're kind of burned out from studying or dating or all the other crazy things that happen during college time. And just a great way to make friends, to bring people together, see if somebody you want to be friends with is actually fun to game with. And you're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't be friends because this person's too competitive or really bad. It's just so good for that. And we use just a perfect device for that because it supports multiplayer gaming and 8-player. Get your 8-player Smash on. So I actually would heartily encourage you to take it versus shut yourself out on your handheld, because those gaming memories will stay with you forever, and they will be some of your fondest gaming memories if they're anything like what mine were back in college.
Yeah, and I would say if you have a roommate that I would hope you talk to before you actually go there, discuss with them. Maybe they're already bringing a console. Maybe it's a Wii U or something else, so maybe you'll want to figure that out. But like Noah, I would go ahead and bring it. In worst case scenario, if you feel like it is a distraction, I mean, just box the thing up and put it away.
Yeah,
Um,
take it home
to
during a
focus.
break.
But yeah, you're gonna have I mean, gaming is not going to be your only distraction, especially living on campus somewhere.
Yeah.
You're gonna figure out a lot of those things. So yeah, good luck. Congrats on going to college, and hopefully you can update us in the future. Scribble 36.
Yeah. Our final comment is from another awesome longtime commenter we love to hear from, Old School 1990s. I've been playing affordable space adventures lately, and I am very impressed. This is a truly great experience with the gamepad that I have been waiting for. It is so fun and immersive, the way you control and monitor the various functions of your ship with a gamepad. While playing this game, I came to a realization about Wii U. One of my favorite features of Wii U is off TV play, but for a game to include this feature kind of excludes any other features that rely on the gamepad. So games like Lego City Undercover, Zombie U, and now Affordable Space Adventures have this in common. Off TV may not be everyone's favorite feature, but I think maybe this could be one of the reasons why the gamepad is mostly used for maps and inventory in a lot of Wii U games. Old school 1990s.
I respectfully disagree. I just don't. I think most developers are lazy, and they're either porting the game or they can't come up with good ideas like Lego City. I actually don't know, but like Zombie U and Affordable Space Adventures, from what I heard, they haven't come up with these really unique ways to incorporate the gamepad.
And hearing you talk about off-screen TV play, uh, that's something I'm kind of hoping will actually work in my next apartment, because right now my bedroom is too far away from my Wii U. So when I try to do it, it's like, can't find the Wii U, can't play it. So I've still yet to truly experience the awesomeness of playing my Wii U while in bed because, of the proximity situation. But I also agree with Evan that I think it's a real challenge for developers to come up with a cool way to make use of Wii U's gamepad from a gameplay perspective. And there's probably some developers, unfortunately, who just don't think it's worth the effort. And they're like, let's just make a traditional game and leave it at that. If I were to choose between having off TV play or really awesome use of the gamepad be the true legacy of Wii U, I'd actually would have liked what didn't happen, which was see the gamepad get used in lots of cool ways, which I think is what Nintendo wanted to happen. Off TV play is definitely really cool, but that's the main legacy or the main cool thing that people are getting out of the gamepad. It's a little bit of a bummer, but who knows what Nintendo's next system will do to address this. The possibilities are endless. Thank you, everybody, for all the awesome emails and comments. We love it. It gives us an extra awesome reason. I'm going to just keep using that word over and over because I have no other adjectives in my vocabulary, but it gives us a great reason to do this show every week. We love hearing from you. So please continue to keep writing in. Back to you, Evan.
Thank you so much, Noah, for taking us through that fantastic feedback. And thank you all out there for joining us here on episode 65 of the NF Show Amiibo Apology. Don't forget that you can subscribe to us on YouTube as well as iTunes, and you can also leave a review on iTunes. And you can also follow us 24/7 on Twitter. I'm at Evan Campbell. Noah's at This Is Noah. And most importantly, the official NF Magazine Twitter account is at Nintendo Force, where you can stay up to date on the magazine, our podcast, and everything else surrounding the Nintendo Force. And with that, we're going to say goodbye. We'll see you next week here on the NF Show. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everybody.